Hey guys, Steve Guttenberg here. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And today I wake up confused. I open my email and I see this message from a company that wants me to review their DAC. Okay, fair enough. I go to their website, I check it out, and I see lots of numbers. Let's say boastful numbers, because their numbers are so good and high. I'm talking about high resolution numbers, whatever it was, DSD 10 times, blah, blah, blah. Look at how great our DAC is because it does these amazing things with crunching numbers. That's what a DAC is. It's a number cruncher. But it's also an analog device. That's why it's called a digital to analog converter. There's analog circuitry in a DAC. You would never know it by reading these numbers and specs because it's all about the digital part of it. But the part that stops me in my tracks is that everybody has the same numbers in terms of ultra-high resolution. And I'm here to say, for what purpose other than boasting rights? Where is this music that we speak of in high res? Where is it? DSD music? Give me a break. I literally cannot think of a single piece of music that was recorded in DSD that I would want to listen to. Now, a lot of it, Grant, right away, is classical music, which isn't really my main bag. So I'm out on that one. And so much DSD that I was sort of vaguely aware of was sourced from analog tapes. And if it's an analog recording to begin with, it's natively analog. I just rather listen to the vinyl. Or if you're one of these people, you could listen to analog tape. But so DSD from analog, to me, doesn't count. It's not really DSD. It's just a transfer. But DSD to record something, I have no idea why. Anyway, so anyway, it's a numbers thing. That's what these companies are selling. But the question is, the music itself recorded in high res or released in high res, because it may not have been recorded in high res, it may have been bumped up to high res in the mixing part of the album. But in any case, when I look around on Tidal and Qobuz to see what's new in high res, and I listen to it, I think, this is high res? You're joshing me. This is what the fuss is all about. It still sounds compressed and equalized and processed to the max. And high resolution is about clarity, not processing. The recording itself needs to be clear and have wide dynamic range, in this case meaning into the quieter parts of the signal, the room sound, the reverb tails, that sort of thing. That's where high res really shines, is letting you hear deep into the recording. But if it's compressed to the max, that stuff isn't there in the first place, or not there. It didn't survive the mixing phase of making the record. So I'm not sure what it's for, this high res that you speak of, right? So here's the thing. When I review a DAC, I mostly listen to it playing CDs. 16-bit, 44.1, the first successful consumer format. It still sounds really good in a good system with a good DAC and a good transport, etc., etc. And that's what I'm looking for. How does this DAC sound playing CDs? Now, of course, I also use it playing Tidal and Qobuz to listen to it in high res and listen to it with MQA. I certainly do that. But most of the time, there's nothing there that keeps me in, with rare exceptions. You know, Neil Young is one of these guys who's really been into high res digital for a long time. He loves analog. And some of his recordings, I admit, do have, transferred to high res, do sound really good, because the recordings themselves were pretty good to start with. Steven Wilson is another guy. He is into it. He gets it. He gets what high res does. And when he remasters, Jethro Tull, and yeah, he gets it. He gets surround sound for music better than most, but I think he really understands high res better than the average engineer out there today, who's not working for an audiophile label. Now, audiophile companies like Chesky Records, which I have a long association with, and MA Recording and Reference Recording, those companies, yes, they make high-resolution recordings that actually sound good, really good, and exploit the capabilities of high-res. So it can be done. It's just not usually part of, let's say, commercial music, the music that most people, when I say most, I mean most, that most people are listening to at any given time. After I shot the rest of this video, I decided, I should just listen to some right now. So I did, and I was using a Cambridge Audio DAC Magic 200M. It's a nice DAC. I'm going to review it soon. And I was listening over Hi-Fi Man HE1000 headphones, really high-resolution headphones. The new Jeff Tweedy album on Qobuz and Tidal is 9624, and it sounded really good, actually. It sounded clean and warm, and his voice sounded great. It sounded kind of folky, Dylan-esque even, but he sounded relaxed. I always like when Jeff Tweedy's relaxed, but it sounded good. And this new Cat Power album, oh man, she's in great form. It's got space, it's got depth, it's got air. It's got a lot going for it. Sounded really good. Also 9624. But most of what I heard, as I just jumped around, wasn't. I mean, it was 24-bit, 44.1 or 24-bit 48. And that is actually, I'm splitting hairs here. Those are, by definition, high res because they're 24-bit. They are. But the question is, do they exploit that resolution capability to make it sound good, to make it sound better than a CD? That's the question. And the answer is, not really. Sorry, not happening. Stumbled upon this band about a month ago called Dark, Dark, Dark. I don't even know where to begin to describe it. It's essentially folk music. It's almost like, if you remember an Incredible String Band, it's kind of like a darker version of that, not as cheery and up, but it's really, really well recorded. But it is essentially CD quality, proving that the numbers don't have anything to do with the innate quality of the recording itself. But this one that I'm putting up on the screen right now, this Dark, 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 is so good. Good sounding like human beings singing and playing instruments together. It succeeds despite being merely 16-bit 44.1. So then there's this Nick Cave record, this new Nick Cave, Idiot Prayer. Great, really good sounding recording. It's just Nick alone on a piano, grand piano, in a big concert hall. I think it's a concert hall. And it sounds great. The balance between his vocal and the piano is spot on. You hear the room, and it is 9624. I was so impressed. You know what I did? I bought the LP. I ordered it at least, and I haven't received it yet, but I'll be probably talking about it in future reviews. I'm a fan of M. Ward, and his new record, I like the music on it. Think of Spring, but it's not a good recording. It is seriously bright, seriously tweaked up there in the top end. But it's a good record. The music is good, but it's compressed and bright and just unnecessarily, processed. Because it is sort of a minimally arranged record. There's a lot of space there, I think. I'm not sure it actually showed up in the final product, but it's the idea of the record is really good. It's the execution I have a problem with. And high-res, schmi-res, it's not a good sounding recording. Foxwarren. Now, I never heard of this band before. I heard them on FIP, French Public Radio. Great harmonies, really tasty guitar. It's 24-bit, 48. It's sort of high-res, but it sounds really good. Very well done. Basically a pop record, but tasteful. Very tasteful pop. Gorgeous. Oh, then there's this guy, Snorre Kirk. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Anyway, he's a jazz drummer. Really nice sounding record. And, oh yes, it is 9624. I kept finding them. But the bulk of the recordings I found on Tidal and Qobuz were 44.1 or 48. And I don't really see, Snorre Kirk's record, by the way, is really nice sounding record. Very tasteful horns, great arrangement, nice space. Again, not exactly an audiophile recording, but a good recording. But having said all this, I think one of the first things I told you about in this little interlude here, the Dark, Dark, Dark record, which is 16-bit 44.1, straight standard CD quality. You know what? That's the best sounding recording of this little group that I put together. And it's the lowest resolution of all of them. And the reason this is so is because it's a good recording. So, yeah, I'm kind of stuck with this thing. It's high res is nice. It's nice to have, but in the end, it's the quality of the recording itself, the choices of the microphones, the mic placement, the mic preamplifiers, the mixing console, everything about it. Was it analog? Was it digital? All of these other factors, oh, and the studio sonics and the skill of the engineers that made the record, all of those things have a much greater impact on the sound quality than whether it was 9624 or 41 or whatever. I can't state that strongly enough. The recording itself has to be good in the first place. That's ironclad. And if it's a really good recording and it's high res, yes, you will hear some benefit to high res. But if it's not, if the care wasn't taken in the first place, making it high res doesn't make it better. Polishing a turd, we'll use that old example. Now, if you're the sort of audiophile, and I'm going to try to say this carefully, that you are drawn to that just to have it. It's like having extra power in an amplifier. I just rather have that high-res capability. Even if I'm not using it, it's nice to know it's there. Okay, be my guest. That's cool. And it's not to say that DACs that do high-res really, really well aren't also bringing the most out of CD quality, 16-bit 44.1, uncompressed recordings. That's what CD is, like the original uncompressed consumer format. It's not data compression, and it doesn't have to be, although it usually is, dynamically compressed. Two different kinds of compression. Data compression, meaning you're taking a big file and making a little file or a smaller file, and dynamic range compression, where you're taking the big, wide ranges from a whisper to a scream, and you're squishing it down so the whisper is not much quieter than the scream. So to reiterate, when I'm reviewing a DAC, it's really about how it sounds playing CDs first, because that's probably the most widespread digital format for consumers. And then secondarily, how it sounds when I'm listening to Tidal or Qobuz from my computer. That's what I'm doing. And it is what it is. So anyway, when I get an email saying, please review our DAC, and I go to their page and I look at all those numbers, I'm not usually all that impressed because they're the same numbers that everybody else has. You know, what does this thing sound like? And that's where I come into the story. Like, I'm going to tell you what it sounds like, assuming I want to do the review. But the question today is for you guys. Where are you on high resolution in 2021? Is it a factor for you? Then there's MQA. Now, I'm not sure where you guys stand as a group. Again, I want to hear from you in the comments. Would you not buy a DAC because it didn't have MQA? Okay, that's fair. I mean, and any consumer decisions are fair to me. I'm not judging, just asking. So in other words, would you be drawn to DACs that have MQA over DACs that don't have MQA? Of course, as far as I can tell, the only place that you can hear MQA is on Tidal. You know, Qobuz doesn't do MQA. Only Tidal does. It's kind of weird after all these years. So anyway, where do you stand on MQA? Where do you stand on high res? And then where do you stand on DSD? Tell me about all the great music you have on DSD that's not sourced from analog masters or PCM digital masters. Just straight DSD. I want to know. And I'm not being snarky. I really do want to hear about that. So call me high-res curious. I'm curious to see where this all leads to, because, well, it's been over 20 years that we've had high-res for consumers, and I can't see how it's actually progressed towards making better sounding recordings. That's it. I should have said that sooner. It hasn't actually gotten to the point that you say, wow, today's recording sounds so much better than those ones from the 80s or 90s. No, I haven't noticed that. When I do the comparison between recordings of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and now, I don't hear any that today's recordings sound better. Almost never, actually. A lot of great recordings were done in the 50s that really, really, really hold up and sound great. Miles Davis Kind of Blue, really nice sounding recording. So, yeah, what's going on? What do you think is going on with high res in 2021? My name is Steve Guttenberg, and this is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much for doing so. Oh, and by the way, the MA recording samplers that were put together for this channel are still available, and they are free. One is a high-res sampler. One is basically a CD quality 16-bit 44.1 sampler. And I made videos about each of them, and I will link to those videos below, and those videos will give you links to where you can go to actually download the music for free. And when you do, don't do it on your phone. It'll take forever. The files are not compressed, so they're big. Anyway, what else we got? Well, we have playlists. We have playlists for music reviews and headphone reviews and electronics reviews and, of course, speaker reviews, plus interviews with so many great people in the audio biz and just plain audiophile folk. So I think we're good now. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. Thank you again for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.